Here is something that makes me genuinely angry. A billionaire can hold $1 billion in assets and pay almost zero in taxes every single year, legally. And the most infuriating part? Most people don't even know this is happening. I want you to hear this number clearly. According to IRS data, the wealthiest Americans pay an effective tax rate of just 3 to 6% on their total wealth. The average worker pays roughly 24%. That is not a rounding error. That is not a loophole they stumbled into by accident. That is a system that works differently for wealthy people. Here is what nobody tells you. You and I, when we want money, we have one clear path. We work. We earn income. We get taxed on that income. It is straightforward. But billionaires? They have figured out how to extract enormous amounts of wealth from their assets without triggering the income tax system at all. Let me explain the core mechanism, because this is where it gets interesting. Wealthy people don't sell their stocks to get cash. Selling triggers capital gains tax, which can be 20% or more. That would actually be taxable. Instead, they use their stock as collateral. They walk into a bank and say, I have $1 billion in Apple stock. I want to borrow $500 million against it. The bank says yes. Why? Because the stock is real collateral, completely safe for them. You receive the cash. You do not sell the stock. You trigger zero capital gains tax. Now you have $500 million in hand. What did you pay in taxes for that money? Nothing. Not a cent. The interest on the loan is deductible, which actually lowers your taxable income. So you are not just avoiding taxes. You are actively reducing your tax bill. This is the hidden rule nobody talks about. You cannot borrow against your salary or your W-2 income. You cannot borrow against your labor. But you absolutely can borrow against assets. And only wealthy people have assets large enough for banks to offer loans at that scale. This is why the system looks fair on paper, but functions completely differently in reality. Let me give you a real numbers example. Elon Musk wanted cash in 2022. He did not sell his Tesla stock to fund Twitter's purchase. He borrowed $13 billion against his Tesla holdings. If he had sold that stock, he would have owed roughly $6 billion in capital gains taxes. Instead, he borrowed. His tax bill? Near zero. This is not speculation. This is documented. This is happening right now. Here is another mechanism billionaires use constantly. It is called the step-up in basis. When you die, your heirs inherit your assets. The tax law says that the value of those assets gets stepped up to whatever the market price is on the day you die. So your heirs inherit at that new basis. They can immediately sell and pay zero in capital gains tax. This is generational wealth transfer with no tax friction. Most people never notice this. You cannot do this with your house. You cannot do this with your car. But if you own concentrated stocks positions, or real estate portfolios, or art collections, this is a massive advantage. A single parent building wealth through regular stock market investing will eventually pay capital gains tax when they pass assets to their kids. A billionaire's estate pays almost nothing. Then there are private charitable foundations. A wealthy person donates appreciated stock to their private foundation. They get a full charitable deduction in the year of donation. They avoid all capital gains tax on that appreciation. The stock sits inside the foundation, and they control how it is deployed through grants. They have now turned wealth into tax-free control. This is completely legal, it is completely brilliant, and it is completely inaccessible to ordinary people. Opportunity zones are another one. If you make a large capital gain, you can invest it into an economically distressed area. The gains get deferred. After 10 years, the original investment gets a step up in basis. This is designed to incentivize development in struggling neighborhoods. In practice, wealthy investors use it to delay taxes indefinitely while parking money in investments that compound completely tax-free inside the zone. I want you to understand the pattern here. Every single one of these strategies is legal. There are no secret Swiss accounts. There is no tax evasion. These are features of the tax code that were written to incentivize certain behaviors. The problem is that only people with substantial assets can actually use them. If you have $1 million, you can borrow maybe 100,000 against it. If you have $1 billion, you can borrow hundreds of millions. The math compounds, the advantage scales. And for ordinary people, none of these doors open. Here is where it gets interesting from a practical angle. You might be thinking, what can I actually do? You cannot become a billionaire overnight, but you can start building the foundation that billionaires use. First, stop thinking of taxes as something you owe once a year based on your W-2. Start thinking of taxes as something you sculpt with structure. If you have any business, you can form an LLC, a C Corp, or an S Corp, and change your tax filing immediately. Those entities let you defer income, deduct expenses that ordinary employees cannot, and move money between accounts in ways that reduce your tax exposure. This is what the wealthy do. This is not exotic. It is available to you. Second, understand the difference between income tax and capital gains tax. Income tax is brutal. Capital gains tax is lower. So your strategy should be to earn less income and own more assets. This means starting a business that you own, not a job where you work. This means buying assets that appreciate instead of spending money. This means borrowing when you can because debt has favorable tax treatment. Third, donate appreciated assets, not cash. If you have stock that has doubled, donate it to charity. You get the full deduction. You avoid the capital gains tax. This is not available only to billionaires. This is available to anyone with taxable investments. Most people never notice that the tax system has a completely different set of rules once you have enough assets. The wealthy did not invent these rules to cheat. They are using what the government literally put in the tax code. But it is a system that only works if you already have money to begin with. You cannot borrow against your salary. You cannot donate income. You cannot step up the basis of your car. That is the unfair truth nobody says out loud. The tax code is not written to reward hard work. It is written to reward asset ownership. And the sooner you stop thinking like someone who earns income and start thinking like someone who owns assets, the faster you understand the game. So tonight, log in to your brokerage. Look at your investments. Ask yourself, am I paying taxes on income that could be converted to capital appreciation? Am I donating cash when I could be donating appreciated assets? Am I using debt to my advantage, or am I paying taxes before I even borrow? These are the questions the wealthy ask constantly. They are the questions that change the trajectory of your financial future. The rules are not illegal. They are just not taught to ordinary people.